sugar. Now you can see it has melted quite a bit, but there's still quite a lot of sugar in there. And before we're going to bring it up to the boil to get a set, all that sugar has got to be dissolved and the liquid absolutely clear and free of any sugar. So what we're going to do now is leave that on a gentle heat for about 15 to 20 minutes until the sugar has dissolved. Now, after about 15 minutes, or it might take a little longer, what you should have is a liquid that's clear. And when you lift the spoon up, on the back of the spoon, you can just sort of test it to see that there are no little grains of sugar left. The reason the sugar has to dissolve is because the jam becomes sugary. If you've got crystals of sugar in there, then you get sugary jam. But that's fine now. So now what we need to do is hike the heat right up to its highest setting. And then we need to bring that up to a very rapid boil. And once it comes to a very rapid boil, you time it, and it'll probably take about 20 minutes. While you're waiting for it to set, it's important to stir it from time to time because the heat is very high and it might catch, which means scorch, on the base of the pan, and we don't want that to happen. Now, to test if you've got a set, you pick some up on the spoon and turn the spoon over like that. And when you see they begin to stretch and sometimes actually cling to the spoon, then you know you're getting near a set. So we'll give it a test now. And to do that, you need a plate that's been in the refrigerator. And then you just put a spoonful of the jam onto the plate, leave it to cool, and then take the preserve off the heat while you test for the set. Now that's our first test there, and the way to test it is to actually push it with your little finger like that and move it across, and what you're looking for is a really crinkly skin and a consistency of jelly, but we haven't got that, so that's not ready yet, so we'll just give it another little boil and then another test. Now, this is the second test, and you can see already that that's sitting much more proudly on the plate. And so we're just going to push it again and see if we've got that lovely crinkly skin on the top. Yes, we have. There's the jam, perfectly set. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is just put a tiny little bit of butter into the preserving pan, just a spot of butter, because sometimes you get a bit of scum on the jam, and if you put the butter in, that sort of disperses the scum a little bit. You're not to worry about the scum, it doesn't really matter, it often just settles down when you've potted the jam. And also, do you remember me telling you to save the stones? Well, you can crack about half of them, and then you'll find little kernels inside, and you blanch them, take the skins off, and put those into the jam, which gives a little bit of crunch, which makes a different kind of texture. Sometimes people like to put flaked almonds in, that's another idea as well. Now, if I'll just go over what we've done now, we boiled it for 15 minutes, we tested for a set. It wasn't quite set, so we put it back on the boil for another 5 minutes, and then the next test was a set, so that's 20 minutes altogether. Now we're just going to leave it for about 10 minutes to settle and then put it into the pots. Well, once the preserve has had time to settle, you need to put it into the jars, but I'd like to explain a bit about the jars. They need to be sterilised. Now, you need to wash them in warm soapy water, rinse them, dry them with a clean tea cloth, and then I like to put them into the oven, a medium oven, for about 5 minutes. A, to sterilise them, and B, because when you're pouring hot preserve into a jar, it mustn't be cold glass because otherwise it'll shatter. So this going into the oven just warm them through as well as sterilising them. Now, when you pour it into the jar, it's very useful if you've got this little piece of equipment here, very simple but very, very useful, and that's a proper jam funnel. Now, what we're going to do is just put a couple of ladlefuls into the jar and make sure you get it right up to the neck of the jar. That's very important. And I haven't explained to you why you have to leave it to settle for 10 minutes. And that is when you want pieces of fruit suspended in the preserve, it's very important to have that settling period, because otherwise what happens is the fruit all floats to the top. And it's a special problem when you're making strawberry preserve. It's awful when you have all the strawberries at the top and the rest underneath. So right up to the neck like that. And then we're going to put the lid on. But one important point I haven't mentioned, and that is that you need to have a damp cloth handy for any little drips to wipe them clean. Now, you can buy packets of jam pot covers that look like this, and you get a little kit. First thing you get is this, which is a waxed disc, and the wax on one side of the paper, when it hits the warm jam, melts and provides a nice seal. And then they give you a cellophane cover as well, which looks like this. That goes on top, and you also get little elastic bands to tie it down. Now, a lot of people say this is the best way to seal it, but I'm not absolutely convinced, because although it will keep perfectly well like that, when you come to use the preserve, you find it's awkward putting that back on again each time. So you can, if you collect different kinds of jam jars like I do, you can actually buy packets of lids like this that will fit various sizes, and I think probably that's the best bet in the long run. And now I've got to tell you one more thing, and that is when you label it, make sure it's absolutely cold before you put the label on, because otherwise it'll fall off. The heat of the jam will destroy it. So that's apricot preserve. There are other preserves in the book and lots of notes on preserving. Well, we started off with rhubarb and gooseberries, and now we've cooked our way through summer. I hope some of this lovely summer sunshine has reached your kitchen as it has mine. Thank you for joining me. Enjoy the rest of your summer, and I hope, like me, you've got a little something put by to brighten up any of those dull winter days. Bye-bye.